just over my right
Oh,
shoulder.
welcome to DX Engineering, Facebook fans and YouTube fans. It's time for the Manufacturer Showcase. And this is a show where we bring on various manufacturers that DX Engineering represents. And we represent over 160 different manufacturers. And we're so happy to have you on today. It's 1834 Zulu here on September 30th, 2021. This is the DX Engineering Manufacturer Showcase. And we have a special guest today. It's Lee, K7TJR, the president and CEO of High Z Antennas and the chief engineer, too. You wear a lot of hats, Lee.
Yes, I do, Tim. Good morning.
It's great to have you on all the way from Oregon on the West Coast. And if you have a question about High Z receive antennas or some of the High Z antenna switches or any of the High Z products, which you can find on the DX Engineering website by just going to dxengineering.com and clicking in the search box, just put in HI-Z, High Z antenna products. So, Lee, why don't you tell us a little bit about the history of your company? To walk us through some history here.
Sure. Okay, Tim. Yeah, I started this in about 1998 or somewhere back, way back. I went to a friend's house and he was doing a 160-meter contest. And I thought to myself, I've heard of Japan being on. He'd never turned towards the west. And I says, let's try to see if we can hit Japan. And sure enough, on his transmitting antenna, we heard some Japanese stations. And I was hooked, Tim. 160 was where I was going from there. And I started building every imaginable kind of antenna I could think of. And I initially invented the 8 alpha product, which is a single band, 200-foot, 8-element array. And that was for myself. Had no idea I would ever sell anything. Didn't have that in mind. I published it all on the web, and that's when things started to unroll in terms of my email inbox. And so I got that going and got some others going. And along the way, we ended up with DX Engineering. I just looked at the circuit board for that original product that I made, and it was done almost 10 years ago to the day. So it's been quite a ride, and we got hooked up with you guys, and that just really made things go much easier for me. I didn't have to do the marketing and all that, and you're great to work with, Tim. It's always been good. So that's kind of a thumbnail history.
Yeah, Lee, you and I have had a very long history working together, even before I was with DX Engineering, because early on I saw the performance of your products and the quality of manufacturing of your products. They were just so good. And I initially started with a 4-square receive antenna that we used on 160 and 80 meters. And that worked so good, I said, how about an 8-circle? So then I put in the 8 elements that it takes to build the 8-circle, and that worked great. Now I got 8 directions, every 45 degrees, 160 and 80 meter performance, just outstanding. And then our friend Greg Orty, W8WWV, was here, and he had his quadcopter, and he was taking some videos, and we noticed that if we've got a piece of property across the street, and we noticed that if you fly over the neighbor's house to get to that other property, it's exactly broadside on Europe. And so it gave us 500 feet of spacing. So we put in an 8-circle that is southeast and a 4-square that is northwest. And then we made sure all the phasing and all the losses of the feed lines were done correctly. And we actually phased those 2 arrays together. And wow, that is just spectacular. The 4-square is built exactly to the same dimensions as the 8-circle. But Lee, tell us about some of the, and I'm going to have more details on this tomorrow in the weekend special, but tell us about some of the other arrays that you have, like the 3-element receive array?
Okay, Tim. Yeah, I just rebuilt the 3-element and supplied it to DX Engineering. It's a very small little package and done with mounted connectors now. So there's mounted to the circuit board inside, and there's no longer any difficulty with loosening connectors and so forth. And this array is a little different than the original one. In the original one, I phased 3 elements together to get the pattern because I had something else in mind in making a variable notch array out of it. Still could do that, but not going to do it. The 8 array now in this little, or I mean the 3 array in this little box now is a less expensive than the older one, and I artificially put it at a low price just to see if we could get some people that weren't into buying the more expensive arrays to have something they could work with. So that's the 3-element array. It has the 3 inputs for 3 high impedance amplifiers and cables coming from the field. Has the connections for direction control. Has four different lines for direction control. And it runs 9 to 10 dB of RDF with the 2 elements. And it really works well, clear up above 40 meters. And it doesn't have so much phasing stuff going on there, and it keeps its accuracy by having only the 2 elements active. And I changed the way that they're laid out in the field as well. So it's all in the manual on the Heisey Antennas site, where you can get into the manual and look at it, and a lot of description there too. So that's the 3-element there, Tim.
Yeah, are you seeing the manual there now?
Yeah, there it is. Yes.
Okay. And so there are 3 antennas, and let's talk about the configuration of these elements. These are 23-foot elements, is that right?
Yeah, they can be. On this one, it's a low loss combiner. They can be anywhere from 15 to 23 feet long. There's the layout of the pattern right down one page there, Tim.
Okay.
There it is right there. There's the element 1. And there's, is that 2? Yeah, that's 2. And the one off to the right is 3.
Okay.
Prior to this version, the north would be it would be in the north position, and the 2 would be east and west laterally there. So it's changed orientation. And I've made some suggested pattern delay line for it. And it comes with, actually, you can get the delay line that comes with it separate, and it has several adjustable sections. You can add sections or take them away, whatever you'd like to do to get the pattern that I've shown in there as different patterns for different phasings. So
yeah, so this with 3 small vertical elements and no more than a ground rod, right?
That's correct. We never, unless you've got the world's worst rocky soil or something, you don't need ground rods with this. If you've got dirt and it's moist during the winter, you're good to go. It just does not need any radials or anything around it. Just a ground peg that holds it up, and you're good to go. Right,
and of course we're selling quad shield now, RG6, and that's pretty inexpensive stuff when you look at it. And I just put in all new lines. I went from the dual shield to the quad shield, and anything to keep things quieter. But this 3-element array, and it's not very expensive. It's let's see here, $199.
Yeah, that's for the controller, and you've got packages on your website there that adds in the necessary parts to make it a full array.
Right. So this is, the thing I like too, though, more than anything about the Heisey product lines, Lee, is you take a lot of time and effort to really document this well. And all of the manuals are on the DX Engineering website as well. And your manuals are just great.
Well, I've taken them to writing them myself on this new products. Someone else wrote them on the old ones, and I will be the first to admit I didn't take as much care with those as I could have. Very, very busy, Tim. When this thing first hit the market, it was pretty busy.
Yeah, and look at how well the pattern holds between 160 and 40.
Yes, that's and it'll even go above that up to 30 meters if you use the narrow spacing on it.
Right. And so this is 45 feet per side, right?
Yeah, anywhere from 40 to 50 you can get away with. I chose to put it in the middle as the most opportune place for everybody.
Right. Wow, that's really very cool. And here is the your four square receive antenna only. It's just for receiving. And I have one of these. And so let's step through the components here. Uh, uh, Describe these buffer amplifiers, Lee.
Well, what they are is high impedance input and 75 ohm output impedance amplifiers to drive the cables to connect this all together and not have any standing waves and not have any phase perturbations as a result of the standing waves on there. So everything is matched very carefully to 75 ohms. I admit that the cable is not as good as my instruments are here, but the cable varies some. But anyway, the little high impedance amplifier have a FET input. Use a very specialized circuitry with a constant amplitude current source to supply them. And this particular one, the little white one, is the new high Z amp plus amp or plus. I've brought back the old style that had minus 6 dB and the newer ones that have 0 dB or 6 dB more gain. This little amplifier, I found an FET, and so far I've been keeping it quiet within the world that just took this thing from what it used to be to what it's never been. I've temperature tested these amplifiers from minus 20 to 150 degrees, and they stay within 1% of the gain and phase tracking and things. And it's just perfect for this. They're in a smaller package now on the new ones than they were the old ones. If you want to switch to my screen there, I'm going to show the new ones here for a moment. This is the old plus 6 amplifier. It's about 4 inches long and about 2 inches wide with the terminals on the end and the RG6 on the other end. And this is the new box. It's considerably smaller, and it has the same connections as the RG6 there and the inputs on the other end. Now on the inside is where the action takes off, and this is the inside of one of those. Get it in front of the camera here. It's backwards for me. Anyway, that's the inside of it. It's all mostly all surface mount technology. There's one component there, which is a capacitor, and I need to explain that capacitor because it's hooked to the ground terminal. What I've found over the years is that if you have a long line going out to your array and you have voltage drops across it, this ground connection on these amplifiers would actually have current flow into the ground due to the voltage difference in the supply cable, changing the voltage, the ground potential at your shack and the ground potential at the array. So I've AC coupled the ground connection and left the antenna input connection with a voltage on it like I've always done, and no static builds up as a result. And in addition, I've added these little gas discharge tubes here to the thing, and that seems to have solved an enormous amount of problems. I sent some of these to Larry K7TJR to test on a 3-element array. Sorry, I'm wiggling around. It's backwards for me. I'm just not good with that. But anyway, sent some to Larry K7TJR, and he had a major lightning strike there, very close to the 3-element array he was testing, and it damaged these little capacitors some. The only part in there that was damaged, I brought them back, turned them on, and they all worked perfectly. The controller, however, melted all the traces off the back of the circuit board. That's how hard a hit it was. So I'm very happy with this new design. It seems to be stable and safe with a lot of lightning. And one other thing about the new amplifiers is this. The minus 6 dB version has about 10 dB, I'll get it, about 10 dB more IMD capability than the 6+ version of the thing, and so as a result, I quit wiggling around there. Sorry about that. As a result, it's better in that respect. And concerning IMD, when you have those kind of problems, you should always check with me, because we have some filters that we can install now inside the little box with some smaller components than we've used before, and take care of that problem with some matched components for each amplifier. Have to put one in each one. So
very, very nice, Lee. Let's go to the chat room here. Let's see. We've got New Delhi, India. Victor Uniform 2, India Bravo is on, and KL7 Kilo Yankee Kevin is on. He says, "I love my High Z4. Hope to have it back up next season. It worked awesome on 160 and 80 meters." And Gunny is on from Wyoming. And let's see here. Oscar Zulu 1 India November Golf. He says, "I like my Foursquare DX Engineering active receive array for his 80 and 160 meter operations." And K3CWE says, I was having a little antenna problems on 75 this morning, but I'm only running an end-fed long wire. The circle and Foursquare are interesting. The fact that it can be directional. I don't believe I have a room for such an antenna, but it is interesting." And Michael, Whiskey 8 Charlie India says, "Great documentation, thanks." And let's see, Thornton says, "Can you talk about the new system? I love my original 8 circle system. This is W1 Fox Queen." And so, Lee, let's talk about, just for a minute here. We've only got a few more minutes left, but a minute here about the difference. If somebody has an 8 circle that they've had for years, should they consider? I mean, is there a performance enhancement?
Well, there is a performance enhancement. It's minor, because we're pretty close to the limits as we are. Here is a version. This is the board for the replacement to the 4.8 Pro, the old 4.8 Pro. This is just now called an 8 Pro because it's all in one box, and it's all done with the surface mount technology, which has brought the accuracy up considerable, which makes the performance better and more consistent from direction to direction. One of the problems with switching these things before was a little bit of change as you change direction. So this is a brand new one. It's now into DX Engineering and available as the new 8 elements, all in one box, instead of having to put it together as 2 boxes, Tim.
Yeah, so tomorrow I'm going to show the installation here at K3LR between the 2 boxes and the 1 box. And so we'll have more on that tomorrow, Thornton.
One more thing, Tim, on the
Yep.
8 circle. The 8 Alpha, which is the 200-foot single band array, is under redesign. And this is one right here. I just sent out for some new circuit boards on it. And that is the 8 antenna inputs right there, and phase delay cables on the other end here, and the power inputs on the terminals here. And internal to that is all surface mount. I had to go out and buy a surface mount oven to be able to put these things together. That's not very focused, but anyway, it's under test. You can see some toroids hanging off back there that I forgot. I'm getting old and forgetting things now. But anyway, new circuit board coming within the next few days, and I'll continue testing this and see when that product's available to replace the old one. It's different in another respect. It has some internal amplifiers. The old system was rather lossy, very lossy, and it left room for improving it. And it only has like a 45-degree beam width. Is very narrow on switching. So
yeah, that's incredible. And WD8NVN says very effective system for sure. And our friend Marty AG3I says, "Good afternoon, Lee and Tim. Quite exciting. Wheels are turning for implementation at the Skyview Radio Society." And let's see, we've got Don Whiskey Juliet 3 United says, "Ask Lee what's that vintage piece on the table behind the curtain?"
That is a 1913 kit radio put out by what was then the National Radio Company, or the people that started the National later. There's 4 tubes in there, and I've never fired it up. I've had it since the 60s. I drug it out an old farm from a friend of my dad's, and it's really kind of cool. It has the big speaker on it, very unusual one. The cone floats there, has a tone control. Very old.
Very, very nice. And Mikkel at Sugar Juliet 2 Whiskey says, can I modify the old amplifiers with AC coupled ground as well? I have already put the GDT over the antenna connector.
Yes, you can do that.
Okay.
I use 1 kilovolt disc capacitors, 0.01s, and I did that just because of lightning and static events to help it survive a little better.
And Kilo Lima Zero says, thanks for sharing the great info, Lee. And so, yeah, there's a lot of excitement about this. And as I said, Lee, tomorrow on the DX Engineering YouTube and Facebook channels, I will be describing the conversion of the old to the new, because I wanted to try out the new. And we did some field tests yesterday, and boy, things are working great. And, you know, it's that time of year when the Europeans are coming back in, and I'm hopeful that this will be the year we work a Japanese station on 160 SSB now that they're allowed on SSB over there.
That'll be cool. One other thing I'd like to talk about for a moment. I have a friend who graduated with PhD during some time. I've known him. He's a ham. And I asked him a year or 2 ago to look at some formulas I found about getting the maximum RDF or directionality out of any particular set of arrays. We have come up with something that's never been done before, and it is out for field tests in 3 locations as we speak. I can't flat-footed even sit here and tell you that it works. I had to make some real engineering decisions in it. And I'm so very excited that it might be something that can raise the bar another 3 dB, Tim.
There you go. And that's a big number. Well, Lee, thanks so much for coming on with us today and talking about your fine company. We at DX Engineering really enjoy the relationship that we have with you. And we look forward to having more fun with this, and customers really getting geared up about it too, especially now that it's October and it's time to get going on those receive antenna projects. So 73 Lee, and 73 to all of you, thanks for watching, and come on back tomorrow at 20 Zulu for the weekend special. We'll be showing a lot of photos and results of some of the tests on the new High Z systems. Until then, 73 from DX Engineering.
Thanks, Tim.